Welcome back to Touring the AFC South. I'm your host, Mike Patton. And, we can't just ignore some things we don't like or we don't like to see. We have to address those things head on. And one of those things, of course, I know a lot of people might not like to see, it'd be the Houston Texans. I mean, they won 9-11 after Sunday's loss to the Cleveland Browns. Boy, oh boy. I could say the Houston Texans because, they face themselves. It might be ugly too. But
right.
I'm here to actually talk about the Houston Texans, potential draft things down the line, and of course, a particular gentleman coming back to town this past weekend. I have Mr. AJ Jones. What's going on, man?
What's going on, boss? Good to be on the show with you.
Thanks for coming on. Now, let's get down to it. Mr. Deshaun Watson was back in town this past weekend. And, of course, the boos are raining, but you don't know what the boos are for. They just know they were booing. That's all we know.
Right. Every time he touched the ball from the first quarter to the fourth quarter.
Wow. So what was the atmosphere like there?
I'll be honest with you. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought that they were going to be vulgar. If you remember the preseason game against Jacksonville, I think it was, they were vulgar, bro. They took it to a whole another level. And I thought the Texans fan base was going to try to outdo that. They didn't. But it was electric. From the boos were strong. There were some cheers, but the boos were consistent. I mean, they literally did not stop booing him until the game was over. Now, what I will tell you was a surprise was that the game was not sold out. There were very many seats empty in that stadium. So for all those who thought that folks would come out and just be there to protest in person, if there was a protest, it was not coming to the game. There were a lot of empty seats.
Well, I do like to call that stadium the big trash can. So, maybe they didn't want to hang out and be sneaky on Sunday. So
hilarious.
That's just my thinking. But,
hilarious.
What did you? I know it wasn't necessarily the best game for him. Of course, he hasn't played in like 2 years. So, what did you think of his play on Sunday?
I mean, think about it. For a guy who's not played a real snap in a regular season game for over 700 days, it was about what football people expected. There are folks who thought his emotions facing his former team and, maybe the people that did him wrong in some kind of way would have propelled him to some Herculean performance. That didn't happen. I mean, there were moments where you could tell he was Deshaun Watson, but then there were also moments where he just threw it straight in the ground because his mechanics were off, his timing was off. It was a lot, but he got through it. And like he said after the game, that was the equivalent of a preseason game, not shade at the Texans, but that was the equivalent to his second preseason game. So, we'll see how he progresses from here. But, again, it is pro NFL football. So, there's no beating the football reps and the football training. And he even said, I'm in shape and I'm worn out from having played this game.
Definitely. Well, it was ugly for the home team. We do have to get to the home team. Ah, boy. They was actually close for a while, though. The defense was actually keeping it close. It was either the defense or the Cleveland Browns, one of the two. But what were they doing to kind of stifle the Browns early on in this game?
I think what they were doing was realizing that Deshaun was not going to air it out. He just does not have that kind of timing. So they really took away everything short and said, if he's going to beat us, he's going to beat us with, something that we don't think he can do. So, they shut a lot of stuff down. Of course, the running attack is what you worry about most with Cleveland, with that two, almost three-headed monster that they have coming out of that backfield. And the Texans did a pretty good job of minimizing that early. So, that's what allowed them to stay close until, it just got away from them.
Well, by getting away from them, you mean the Texans, kind of fumbled and threw it away, to be honest. They
Four
had
turnovers.
4 turnovers, but 2 touchdowns off of those turnovers. You had one that was a fumble when they were kind of trying to, wedge the ball out from the end zone, and Denzel Ward picks it up and runs it in for the Cleveland Browns. Then you have another one, throw an interception, runs it back like 11 or 12 yards. With that being said, Kyle Allen had 2 interceptions. Is the Kyle Allen experiment over yet?
I mean, whether it's over or not, where do you go from here? I mean, you've got a starting franchise quarterback who's got 11 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. That's been the story of the Texans this year. They've turned the ball over far too much for a team that can't afford to turn it over at all. They're just not that good to give other teams multiple opportunities to score. And a lot of their turnovers have been pick sixes and, like you said, fumbles returned for touchdowns.
Yeah, it was just bad. They say sometimes when you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. This might be it. But, were there any bright spots offensively for them, the Texans, in this game?
Yeah, Lovey talked about it after the game. He said that, Dameon Pierce is starting to look like Dameon again. He's got that burst of speed. He's got that, that wiggle where he's not gonna go down on the first hit. He's not gonna get caught in a whole lot of traffic. He's gonna find a way to get through that and get, 4+ yards per carry. That was good. You did have some plays made by some of the receivers. I mean, I'm hedging around. This team is devoid of talent, and I've said it over and over again. If you can name one Pro Bowl player on this team, I'll give you $100. I know I won't ever have to pull that hundy out of my pocket. They just don't have it. And you talked about if you have two quarterbacks, and supposedly you have none. How about they don't have an NFL starting quarterback? They've got backups. They've got guys who can, be in there to be serviceable, but they just don't have the talent that you would expect on a team that is not a expansion team or not a team that's coming off of some tragic, horrific, something that happened that you didn't expect. And folks talk about the Deshaun Watson issue. Deshaun didn't play. So it's not like they're all of a sudden without Deshaun. Deshaun did not play at all last year. So the Davis Mills regression is, to me, more on Davis Mills than it is on Pep Hamilton, who a lot of people are calling for his job and saying that he's not a very good offensive coordinator. But you had Tim Kelly for a couple of seasons who had never called plays on any level. But you think he's better than Pep Hamilton, who's coached up Justin Herbert, who's coached up Andrew Luck, who's coached, a little bit with Peyton Manning, who's coached, true franchise quarterbacks. You're comparing his resume to a Tim Kelly's resume. There's problems, man. There are bigger problems than what we saw on Sunday.
And another thing I've noticed as well is some Texans fans even calling for Lovey to be gone after one season. And, they might want to understand that wasn't looked very well in the eyes of any NFL fans.
Yeah, let me just say this. I had a very frank conversation with a dear colleague, dear friend of mine at the game. I was also standing there with one of our brothers, Willie Gibson from Columbus, Ohio, who covers Cleveland. And in this frank conversation, our colleague said, Lovey should go. Lovey's too stubborn. Lovey doesn't make changes. He doesn't make adjustments. And he should go. And then the colleague came back and said, at worst, then Lovey should let go of Pep Hamilton. And it was sobering to me, man. I mean, literally, it took the breath out of my body as if she was talking about a loved one that died. No pun intended, but a loved one. Because, A, this is not Lovey's fault. B, this is not Pep Hamilton's fault. C, they've not been given a lot to work with. And like you said, if after one season past David Culley, the Texans are firing their entire staff and head coach again, it really won't look good. But here's my question to you. Who won't it look good to? Who's going to say something about it? Who's going to do something about it when you see what's going on in Indianapolis, where they pulled someone who's never coached on any level, never been a head coach on any major level, out of a TV studio, and put them in, and it's really leaning towards making him the head coach. Who's going to say something about how bad it looks? The NFL's not going to do anything about it. The Players Association is not going to do anything about it. The fan base in Houston already doesn't like Lovey or Pep, so who's going to say anything about it?
Yeah, you got a point. Boy, it's getting rough in Houston, but of course it could potentially get rougher because the Dallas Cowboys are up next. And of course, we know their fans are all across Texas and even in Houston too. And I like to call this the All Texas Bowl since, it's bowl season in college football. I'm going to call it the All Texas Bowl. How nervous should the Texans be for this game and how potentially bad it could be?
Let me give you one of those different kind of takes, if you don't mind. And I'm not doing it for shock value. The Texans have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So they shouldn't be nervous at all. They literally should come out and pull out all the stops. Whatever you have not shown us to this point, whatever you've been tinkering with, whatever you've been wondering, throw it out there on Sunday. You've got nothing to lose. After what Dallas did to Indianapolis, the fact that they have scored more points in their last couple of games than any other team in Dallas franchise history, and that's since Dak has come back from the injury, tells you that this team is running on all stuff. You got nothing to lose. You got nothing to be afraid of. You're playing with house money. If you get beat, you were supposed to get beat. If you win, you will have shocked the world.
Yeah, that's true. That means they need to watch tape of the Jeff Fisher coached Tennessee Titans when they took on the Indianapolis Colts, and he didn't punt the entire game. He put an onside kick to start the game. He was throwing it deep off top. Yeah, he was doing everything that he never does as a coach. I think they still lost the game, but still, they gave him a run for their money.
Exactly. That's the point. I mean, at this point, you've got nothing to lose. You're 1-10-1. You've been officially eliminated from the playoffs, as if they needed somebody to tell us that. Lay it out there. I was there in 2002. I was in my little personal seat license that I scraped up all my coins and did car washes and sold fish dinners to get my own, season tickets when the Dallas Cowboys came to Houston and lost to the Houston Texans. And then there are people that still remember that and still feed off of that. Well, guess what? Do it now. That would be their Super Bowl.
Now, this game is in Houston, correct?
No, sir. This one's up in Dallas, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Yeah. Let me verify. Yeah, Texans at Cowboys, 12 noon Central on Friday. On Sunday.
Gotcha. So it could get interesting up there as well, which, interesting in a good way or a bad way, the Texans may choose. But if the Houston Texans are to win this game, more specifically, I know we said about, pulling out all the stops. More specifically, what would they need to do offensively to win this game?
They would have to control the clock. So that means they're going to have to run the ball. They're going to have to literally throw high-value passes, not just, throwing it downfield so you can keep Dallas honest. You've got to control the clock and keep the chains moving. Don't get behind the chains and downs where you're third and long and that kind of thing. You want to keep that ball moving and keep that Dallas defense out there longer than they want to be. That defense is formidable. The only chance you've got against a defense like that is to hit them early, gash them early, and wear them out. And the only way you can wear them out, keep them on the field longer than they want to be.
All right. Now, defensively, I know the front seven is not necessarily anything to write home about.
Nope.
So for the Texans, defensively, do you think there's anything they can do to kind of slow that train down?
Yeah, there is. Make a commitment to stop the run. Make sure that Tony Pollard doesn't go off. Make sure that Ezekiel Elliott doesn't get those tough yards between the tackles, and don't give Dak time to get comfortable. Now, again, that's something that the Texans defense has not done all year long. They got to find a way to do that. and not give up the big plays, to those wide receivers and tight ends. If they can start with some fraction of that, it's almost like the Bill Belichick method of defense. Take something away that you don't even know how much you need it until you don't have it. And if they can do that, I think they can at least give it a shot. They've got nothing to lose. They've got to try and do something different to get something that they haven't done all year.
That is true. That is true. Now, of course, since you said they're eliminated, I did take the liberty of bringing up the 2023 NFL draft information. And looking at it, the Texans have 12 picks, including 2 in the first round. So with that being said, do you think a QB is the first need they go for in this year's draft?
Depends upon who's there. They'll obviously be one of the top, have one of the top picks in the draft. You're going to need one of two things, and you're going to need the best available player from one of the two things: quarterback and pass rush. You've got to get those things taken care of, and then fill in the offensive line, then fill in, the linebacking core. Our linebacking core, the Texans linebacking core is just, even the linebacking coach says our defense goes as our linebacker goes. So what does that tell you? The linebacking core hadn't gone very well. They need those three things very desperately. They need a quarterback, they need pass rush, they need linebacker play, and then they need to fill in on the offensive line.
Oh man, quite honestly, listening to what you said they need, it sounds like they need to, if they don't get that in all those draft picks, if they get one draft pick, they can do it all. Man, they might want to draft Jesus to do all of it.
Bruh, listen, we praying to the good Lord each and every Sunday, man. It's been rough around here.
Yes, I definitely understand. Now, pass rusher, what if you could have a combination of a pass rusher and a linebacker at the same time, kind of a Micah Parsons type guy?
Yep.
That would be a blessing in itself right there.
Bruh, and if there is a Micah Parsons Jr., Micah Parsons III, cousin of Micah Parsons, somebody who grew up with Micah Parsons, they need to try and get him, because look at what that young man does for the Dallas Cowboys. He is someone that an offensive coordinator has to scheme for. The Texans don't have anybody on their team that an offensive or defensive coordinator has to say, watch this player. The only person that comes close is Dameon Pierce.
Yeah, that's true. It was Brandon Cooks before the season, but it isn't quite him anymore at this point. But
yeah, Brandon wants out of Houston, and he has not made any bones about. Again, this was the other thing that I kind of shared with our colleague. It was, there is something going on in that organization. I brought up Justin Reed from last year, and I got chastised because they were trying to tell me that the Justin Reed, Brandon Cook situations are different. I didn't mean that they were the same. What I was saying is, when you got a good guy like Justin that, is having issues where he's being suspended as a healthy player, something is going on in the organization. That's just not Justin, never been on any level. Brandon Cooks, out of all his stops, he's never been a problem. And now all of a sudden he is. There is something going on in the organization that is affecting what's happening on the football field.
Yeah, and I believe Mr. Nick Cesario is going to have to answer that question one of these days, because he keeps ducking it pretty much. He does. But
he decided that the best quarterbacks were what the Texans have today, and that's the decision that he should be answering to.
Definitely, among other decisions. And I hate to tell Brandon Cooks, but I don't know if anybody's taking $18 million off of the Texans' hands. So he's pretty much stuck there at this point.
That's about right.
And it's funny that a couple of years ago he told them that he doesn't want to be traded again. Now he wants to be traded. So yeah, you're definitely, to your point, there definitely is something going on in that locker room. It's got to be.
Go all the way back to the Jadeveon Clowney. Go all the way back to Dwayne Brown. Go all the way back to DeAndre Hopkins. And for Deshaun, take the legal stuff off, but just the football player to be as adamant as he was about wanting out of Houston. Again, You still have the same owner there. You've got the same mentality with the Patriot way that just doesn't work. I mean, it just doesn't work. And when you have people that won't listen and they're adamant that this is the way we're going to do it, what can you do? Want to go somewhere where they don't have to deal with that.
I hear you there. Now, of course, we have talked about the Houston Texans, and we've talked about the loss to the Cleveland Browns. We talked about their their game versus the Dallas Cowboys. No, I didn't mean that as it's going to be. I wasn't calling the loss.
Houston Texans it's prophetic, fans. Brother. I think you're being prophetic. Go ahead, prophesy.
But what I did want to do is, and what I always do to end the show, I've got 5 questions. I've got 2 answers, and you've got 1 choice. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Got to pick one quarterback to be the next franchise quarterback of the Houston Texans. Is it CJ Stroud or Bryce Young?
CJ Stroud.
Okay. All right. Even though I will say that Bryce Young, every time I look at him, he kind of reminds me of Rev in Remember the Titans. That's what he reminds me of every time I look at him.
Yeah, now CJ Stroud's got that NFL arm, got the NFL size, and he truly has a very high football IQ.
You aren't nervous about the curse of Ohio State quarterbacks?
Not at all.
All right, there we go. All right, which way do you think is possible or more possible that someone can score on the Texans this upcoming Sunday versus the Cowboys? A safety or a special teams touchdown?
Wow, both. Definitely a safety.
All right. 4 wins. Can the Texans get 4 wins, yes or no?
I actually think Lovey's got to get at least 4 to save his job. Can they? Man, do I get to look at the rest of the schedule?
If you like.
Yeah, let me cheat a little bit. Let me make this an open book test. All right. Cowboys, Chiefs, Titans, Jaguars, Colts. That's what they have left. Woo! No. No.
All right. Oh, boy. We gave it a try.
Now, I think they'll get 3. I just don't think they'll get 4.
Gotcha. I was thinking maybe 3. Let's see. Dameon Pierce is at 861 yards so far. 11. What do you think is more possible for him? 1,000 yards on the season or 1,100 yards to finish the season?
I'm going to say 1,100, especially when you've got quarterbacks that can't throw the ball effectively, the line that doesn't give them a whole lot of time. I think you're going to see them commit to the run more often as long as he stays healthy. I think 1,100 is very doable.
Okay. All right. And last but certainly not least, I do have to bring up 2 of the best wide receivers in Texans history. You have 1 wide receiver. Are you taking Andre Beats by Dre Johnson, or are you taking DeAndre Nuke Hopkins?
Yeah, I'm old school like crazy. Before there was a Nuke, there was a Dre. And Dre got it done with whichever quarterback they threw back there. So, yeah, I'm going with Andre Johnson.
Man, I still remember the beatdown he gave Cortland Finnegan that day. He just said he was tired of him. And he that was the original Beats by Dre right there.
Exactly. That quiet storm rose up quick, didn't it?
It definitely did. And just like the quiet storm, of course, it does have to come to an end at some point. But thank you for coming on. I want to also give you the floor to talk about, of course, what all you have going on, the show, the network, what all you're doing behind the scenes. The floor is yours.
Man, I appreciate it. And I do. I appreciate any and every time you give me a chance to be on your show. JD, man, I after getting out of radio after 40 years and starting a new business, Jones Media and Entertainment, it has turned into far more than I thought it would be. I'm doing some management of players, coaches. I've got a social media influencer. Just got back from Hot Springs, Arkansas, filming a reality TV show for a couple of young influencers. So man, it's just been a lot of fun. Still working with Sharifa Barksdale on her biography on the last hurdle. So, man, just having a lot of fun, spending time helping people's dreams get to screens and streams. So that's what we do at JM&E.
All right. And, you definitely had the rhymes and everything going right there. I was like, man, he gonna break out a hot 16 the way he rhyming the words, man.
Watch out there.
Oh, goodness. Well, I thank you again for coming on. I thank everyone for listening and tuning in to Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton. We're out.